I recently reviewed Call of Duty Black Ops, and now I'm going to review its sequel, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. The second game is quite different to the first one, besides its artistic style and the review scores, which were also extremely high. As for sales numbers, I can't find any solid numbers on either game that come up consistently, but approximately 25 million is the average between all the different statistics I've found. Graphically, this game seems to be just a little better than Black Ops 1, and doesn't have any excessively terrible graphics this time around. The guns look just fine, and it's comparable to other similarly styled games from the same year, such as Far Cry 3. The reason this game looks so similar to Black Ops 1 is because it was developed for the utterly shitty PS3 and Xbox 360, which even in 2012 were comically underpowered, and really could not stand up to a gaming PC built by a 4-year-old. Which makes it much harder than you'd think to go any further than they did graphically, because they were already maxing out this hardware even with console optimization. Graphics options wise, these options are still very modern, as with the original Black Ops, which is still awesome. Stopping to mention audio, only for the sake of comparison to the first Black Ops, it does seem a lot better. Some of the guns have quite good sound effects, while most of them are just fine, as is normal with any Call of Duty, though the explosions are also better in my opinion. On the other hand, the enemies are still about as vocal as bricks, and this time don't really scream at all when they die. Story-wise, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 is bog-ass standard, just as any Call of Duty game is, but the story in this one is actually pretty good comparative to all other Call of Duty games, but nothing else. Seriously, you'd be better off playing Crysis for story. It starts off fairly nonsensically the same way Black Ops 1 does, but comes together much earlier and much better than Black Ops 1 does. Now, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert because I will be spoiling parts of the story, but I really shouldn't have to, as the sum total of people who watch my videos and people who care about the story of a Call of Duty game is about equal to or less than my subscriber count, and if there were enough people in either category to actually matter, it'd be more shocking than getting tased. You play as two primary characters, Alex Mason and David Mason. Alex Mason is the protagonist from Call of Duty Black Ops 1, and spoiler alert, he dies. The missions you do play as Alex Mason are pretty basic, and start the plot off with you shooting the main bad guy in the face, which sadly he survives except missing an eye, because you know, a video game has to happen. The missions sadly have nothing to do with the original Black Ops, which is fine I guess. The story this time has nothing to do with the Soviet Union nor Viktor Reznov, but is instead about the Mirandez or Mercedes drug cartel and its leader Raul Mercedes, who eventually manages to get Alex Mason killed. But before he dies, Alex Mason has an absolutely great line that was exactly what I was thinking in the moment. That line was, "Can it, Hudson? Just keep moving!" David Mason is Alex Mason's son, and you play as him every other mission until Alex Mason dies. The missions you do play as David Mason have a whole new, amazingly generic team that somehow managed to pick up just a few scraps of dropped personality left behind by Raul Mirandez by the end of the game, although not very much. Raul Mirandez, however, does have a fair bit of personality to spare and a lot of character building, making him by far the best character I've ever seen in a Call of Duty game. He's got a motive, and a fairly strong one at that, which is his dead father, dead sister, and missing eyeball, all of which were caused by the United States government in one way or another, and he has a pretty hilarious plot that I think is honestly quite brilliant. The last bits I have to talk about related to the story are the 2 or so missions where you play as other characters. These missions are exactly the same as every other mission, except you play as a slightly different character for a while, and a commendation where it is due to the story-based choices such as killing or capturing Raul Mirandez that are also very, very good, especially for a Call of Duty game. And this is an endorsement for this choice as a whole. Like, not just for a Call of Duty game, seriously, story-based choices are awesome. GG. Changing the topic to gameplay, the gameplay is completely fine and basically glitch-free. Otherwise, it's fairly standard and, in my opinion, a fair bit better than that found in Black Ops 1. Starting with the guns again, this time there are many more guns and much more customization available for those guns. The guns themselves aren't anything special besides a knockoff of Crysis' Scar called the M8A1, and there's your standard array of assault rifles, submachine guns, shotguns, sniper rifles, and many more equally well-known weapons. The new attachments and modifications to these weapons are pretty amazing, such as the rapid-fire module for submachine guns that gives them the rate of fire of a Gatling gun with the ammo capacity of a rifle. Sure, your ammo doesn't last more than about a second, but pulling the trigger kills everything in your vicinity twice over. My other favourite modification is the millimeter scanner, a scope that you unlock early on that allows you to see enemies ahead of you through cover, smoke and other such obstructions, including their cloaking devices. The nice thing about this compared to the targeting optic is that it's basically a red dot. The enemies, however, are extremely standard and are probably the first thing to come up when you Google standard video game enemy. They also have a standard amount of health, which is nice since 1 or 2 stabs is enough to kill just about any enemy in the game, unlike in Black Ops 1 where some enemies took 5 fucking stabs. This works though, as you are equally squishy, and both yours and your enemy's bullets actually matter, since you will also die in 2 stabs. As for the vehicle segments, they are few and far between, and all easy enough. It's generally harder to fail them than it is to beat them. This is absolutely fine, as they're just used as a way to break up the gameplay, and this is all they ever needed to be. The vehicles also feel powerful. They give you a sense of being bigger than the average soldier, and usually bigger than the enemy vehicles too, and this is obviously intentional. The only time you ever fly a plane, you come up against drones, which are much smaller than the planes that you and your teammates are flying, and they are also in greater numbers, meaning you can crush them en masse quite easily and quite satisfyingly. Looking back at the difficulty, while playing on regular for review purposes, it was much easier than the original Black Ops. I found myself able to charge most groups of enemies down with my SMGs and shotguns with little to no issue as long as I moved smartly, and had few checkpoints that posed a pissing me off problem. Only one coming to mind while writing this, that being the one while you're leaving the server room of the SS Obama, where I got gunned down at least a dozen times before I resorted to just sitting back and throwing grenades at them before charging in to finish them off, which worked just fine by the way. Otherwise, the deaths never actually felt unfair, as they were always due to me overextending or being somewhere I probably shouldn't have been at the time. Unfortunately, the game does play a bit more like a feature film with gameplay added to break up the watching than an actual video game. Seriously, I should have brought popcorn to my play session. Each and every roughly 20-minute level started with at least 2 minutes of just raw cutscene, and then usually another 3 to 5 minutes of gameplay, in massive air quotes, which consisted of walking slowly behind a teammate or towards something and letting characters talk until you get to do the shooty-shooty. This does kind of suck, but doesn't ruin the experience too much in my opinion. On the other hand, the zombies is complete trash compared to Black Ops 1, with all the default maps being complete and utter crap except Town. Town is a decent map, but I still personally dislike it, due to the lava which makes the zombies explode on death due to being on fire, which for some reason makes them explode. Other than Town, all the zombies maps are extremely small and enclosed compared to the sprawling maps of Black Ops 1, with a lot of that lava as well, which sets zombies and players on fire, doing damage to players and making zombies explode on death, until they naturally extinguish. This makes the first rounds a lot harder and a lot less fun, and makes knives a lot less viable. Multiplayer wise, it's bog standard Call of Duty multiplayer with unlocking weapons, levels, etc, etc. The multiplayer is literally nothing special, but is reasonably fun if you can get a few kills, though sadly not featuring the legendary tactical nuke. On a final note, even though I only played one properly, the squad-based missions are quite cool. You get to control a certain few groups of units such as 1 claw, 1 sentry gun and 2 groups of soldiers, and have to do a mission using them, with the ability to take control of any of them for first-person gameplay. Personally, I think this is great, and deserves credit where it is due, especially since it allows you the option to leave it down to the AI, or to go in yourself. Before I sign off though, I'd like you to do something for me. I'd like you to share this video with anyone who you think might be interested, and help me grow this channel, because if I can grow this channel a bit more, I will be able to make more higher quality content for you to watch. I have been your host, Vert343, signing off. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.